Hello. The purpose of this video is to show you how to do a temperature calibration on the Hanna Instruments HI 9146 dissolved oxygen meter. This meter is temperature calibrated at the factory before shipping, and it's supposed to not require it coming out of the package new. But on page 20 of the manual, where this temperature calibration procedure is explained, it says that if you notice that there is a difference in your temperature readings from what you know the temperature to be, that you can perform this operation. It's been my experience. I've received 3 of these new, and they've all been, I'd say, around 2 degrees, at least 2 degrees centigrade off. That's 4 degrees Fahrenheit from the actual temperature. And so the procedure is explained here, as I said, and right under the title, temperature calibration, on this page 20, it says for technical personnel only. So the person in your organization that's responsible for the maintenance of equipment should be the person to do this calibration. Hopefully it's a one-time calibration, or no more maybe than a year. Maybe things drift over the period of a year, but it's not something that you do routinely every month. Before doing a temperature calibration, you should check your meter and make sure that the automatic off feature is turned off. The meter comes with a default of 20 minutes set, so when the meter's been running for 20 minutes, it'll automatically shut off. And so it takes more than 20 minutes for this meter to achieve the 2 temperatures that you need, the temperature near 0 and 50 that we're going to do, the 2-point temperature calibration. So you want to shut the auto off feature off completely on the meter. So the way you do that, usually when you're trying to do something like change a feature, you want to hit that setup button in the lower left corner. So you hit that, and like when we were changing altitude, it has salinity, and you want to just use the arrow up or down button to cycle through. Next would be altitude. Then you're going to get some time and date type features here. And then there's a beep. You can have it beep when there's something wrong, and that's turned on. That's okay. Then you get a light, backlight feature. It's the intensity of the backlight, and it's set at 1 so that you're not using up battery. And then here's A off. That's the auto off feature, and you can see it was set to 20 minutes. So at this point, remember, when you want to change that number, you hit the calibration button, and then the 20 will flash, and that's telling you, okay, it's ready to change. And then you can use your up and down arrows. I think it changes in 5-minute increments, so 10 there, and then it goes down to 5, and then your next choice is off. All right, so I just hit the down arrow button a few times and got it down to off, and then you just confirm that you want to turn it off. You do a 2-point temperature calibration. They recommend 0 degrees, right around freezing, as close to that as possible, and as close to 50 degrees centigrade as possible. So I heated some water up and put it in a thermos, and I have a bunch of, like an ice water slurry over here in a Pyrex measuring cup, and I see the temperatures down around 3 degrees, and that's, if you're close to 0 degrees, 3 degrees is plenty cold, and you're close to 50 degrees, then you can do the temperature calibration. The meter will allow you to actually, even though you're telling it you're doing 2.050 and it's flashing 50, you can use your arrow keys to increment down to the actual high temperature and increment up to the actual low temperature that you use in your calibration. Okay, we're doing the temperature calibration. I have my ice water slurry here sitting close to 0 degrees C, and I've got the meter off. And the instructions say that you need to simultaneously push the range button on the center top simultaneously with the down arrow button, 2 buttons below that, and then turn the unit on while holding those buttons down. And just hold everything down for a couple of, it seems like it needs to be at least 3 seconds. So I'm going to turn it on now, and it comes on, and you'll get the battery, 100% battery, and there, what the screen you should be reading rather than the condition. If you remember when we turned it on without hitting these extra buttons, you got that condition where the meter was conditioning itself. Well, now you have calibration written on the top, and there's a temperature. You actually have a temperature here, and I'm getting a wrong on the flashing on the screen, and that's because what it's looking for is a temperature close to 0 degrees C at this point. And that's what you should look for. We're doing the low temperature, the 0 degrees C endpoint first, the cold water, and we're nowhere near that right now. The probe's sitting at 17.2 degrees, so it's flashing wrong because it's not happy, too big a discrepancy. So, and now the instructions at this point say to place, I have my little fishing thermometer in here, you know, and it is reading about 3 degrees or so centigrade. And so I want to place the meter and make sure the probe is sitting in there close to where the thermometer is. And you can see the temperature starting to drop. It's sensing that it's in a colder environment, and so it's dropping. And this can be quite time consuming. The instructions say a few seconds. You will see that this takes a lot more than a few seconds to do. You have to be pretty patient. It can take about a half hour to go through this process, depending on how picky you want to be and how close to the actual temperature of that water you want to be. But you're just going to have to be patient and wait for the temperature to drop. And you can see it's not happening real fast. Alright, so we've waited about a half hour for the temperature to reach the temperature on the screen, the meter temperature, to reach the actual temperature of the water, and it's about 2.6 degrees, and that's what I'm reading here. So I'm just going to use my arrow buttons, and you can't do this real fast. I've actually seen the meter shut off if you try to move too fast. So just very carefully, you can see I'm incrementing up to 0.3, 0.4, and then you let it do that. It'll blink once in a while. You know, don't go too fast. Let it do its blinking. And there, when you're in normal mode, your degrees C temperature is over here on the lower right hand side display under the dissolved oxygen number, and you're trying to get this number now, to match the number above. So there we're matching at 2.7 degrees, and I'm going to settle for that. You know, I checked with my magnifying glass, read my thermometer. It's 2.7 degrees water temperature. Once those two agree, it's flashing down here for me to confirm. So I'll hit the confirm button, and you saw immediately we went from the 2.7 that I had down there to 50 degrees, and now it's telling me that it wants to be placed. It wants me to place the probe into the 50 degree temperature. If you remember, I preheated some water and put it in this thermos. And what I'll do now, you know, the water temperature in this thermos is way above 50 degrees, but I only half filled it, and now I use some of this cold water to kind of ease down to the 50 degree temperature. So I'm going to proceed to that step. All right.
Okay.
All right. Now, as you see, I've taken the probe out of the cold water, but this meter, it takes it a while to start reacting. I noticed even on other meters that we have a YSI meter, you know, you want to leave the probe in the water that you're testing, you know, probably at least 3-4 minutes just for this probe to adjust to the right temperature. You can see it's very slow. I mean, there's no way that the air temperature here is 3.4 degrees. So you really have to be patient with it and let it achieve the new temperatures. I noticed even when I stick this into the hot water, it'll take it quite a while, maybe a minute or two, to figure out that I've adjusted the water temperature drastically. So just allow for that. And you can see now we've had the probe in this water for a while, and you can see the water temp is above 50. And I think if it's in water too much above 50 degrees, and I don't know what that number is to tell you, but I've seen it happen where if you stick it in water that's significantly higher than 50 degrees, you're going to get some kind of an error statement here flashing, because really the instrument's really designed to handle that 0 to 50 degree range. Now once this thing settles down, we'll just wait a few more minutes, but once it settles down on the actual temperature, I'll confirm that, but I'm just going to wait and let it settle. You can see it's still changing. Alright, so you saw the temperature changing there. So when the temperature settled down around 50 degrees, 52.3, I incremented the up arrow button to go up to that temperature. When my temperature on the bottom, where the temperature is supposed to be, matched the large display temperature, I hit the confirm button, and I did my 2-point temperature calibration. That was complete. Alright, then you could turn the meter off, and just turn it back on and let it condition and go through the calibration procedure that we discussed previously. Thank you.